Hello everyone, welcome to another video on the channel and welcome to another GT Sport Daily Race Strategy Guide. It's week number 10 of 2021. We're heading to Japan and Autopolis International racing course, and we are taking Group 4 machinery around this tight and twisty track. So here's the settings for this one. We get 10 laps to negotiate, fuel consumption at times 3, tyre wear at times 6, and we have the racing soft and the racing medium tyres available. I think from this point onwards we have to assume that both of them will be mandatory. That seems to be the way we're going. I think that's 5 weeks in a row now where we've had 2 different tyres and both have been mandatory, so that seems to be the theme. Autopolis International racing course is where we are visiting. It's not the most popular track in the game by any means. I think it's a bit of a Marmite track. I quite enjoy it. It is a bit of an awkward circuit to get into. I would just suggest putting the laps in. Once you get into the flow of it, it's actually quite enjoyable. Not the best track for overtaking, but it should be some close action within the midfield. I think the biggest problem with Autopolis sometimes is it's just a little bit bland in the scenery department. But let's jump onto track now, on board with our car of choice for the testing. Now whenever I'm in Group 4 and I'm on a handling circuit, my go-to car is the Toyota 86. There's a sort of small selection of cars you maybe look at when it comes to a handling track. Toyota 86 is one of them, maybe the Alfa Romeo 4C and the Renault Megane Trophy. We will look at some other cars a little bit later on in the video, but Autopolis is a very tight and twisty circuit, so it's definitely going to favour the handling cars. And with so many corners on the track, soft tyres, tyre wear at times 6, it's also very much a killer on the tyres as well. And that is going to pretty much be the emphasis of this one. Pretty much you're going to be running those soft tyres for as long as you can, because the difference between fresh softs and fresh mediums is actually a lot bigger than at most tracks. Just again, that is a very tight twisty nature of the circuit. The maximum grip that you get from the soft tyres over the course of, I think we've got about 16 corners on this track, does add up to quite a big difference between the tyres. I think it's around about 1.5 seconds when they're both the same age and with the same fuel loads. Now one other thing I'd just like to sort of throw in there, just a little bit of kudos to Polyphony Digital. This is an original Daily Race C combination. We have done this combination in FIA of Group 4 at Autopolis, so it's in the manufacturer, so people were kind of shoestrung into the car that they had picked. Obviously a lot of cars out there don't really suit this circuit, so a little bit of a more even playing field where anyone can choose whatever car they want this time. But as I said a little bit earlier in the video, this one's just all about how long can you make those soft tyres last. So we're on the soft tyres here, coming to the end of lap number 1. Let's jump forward to lap number 7 and we'll take a look at those lap times. So lap number 2 there at 51.7, lap 3 never really lost too much time, but then that sort of tyre degradation really starts to kick in. It's the third sector in particular where you lose all the time. Sometimes you'll get to the second sector only a tenth down, and then you get to the finish line, all of a sudden you've lost 6 or 7 tenths. But you can see those lap times continued to decrease, or increase more like, more precisely. By lap 6 we were going a second and a half slower, so definitely time to go into the pits now. Now a very, very tricky pit lane at Autopolis. Be very, very careful coming into this one. We got lucky there. I thought we were hitting the barrier all the way. And obviously we've got the extended pit stops as well. Now my pit crew are certainly not very happy with me at the moment, the cheeky beggars that they are. So if anybody's looking for a new pit crew, then these guys are looking for new jobs, I think, after this video. So into the pits we come now. We've got a new set of tyres on. We're stationary for 5.8 seconds. The pit loss comes in at 21.3 seconds. Fuel is going to be of no issue whatsoever. Even though it's at times 3, you'll still finish the race with around about 50% of fuel in the tank. It's going to vary between cars, but roughly around about half the tank left by the end of the race. So we're on to our fresh medium tyres now. With a depleted fuel load, how do they compare to our worn softs that we got rid of a couple of laps ago? Unfortunately both our laps are compromised here by AI cars. We did a 52.9 then a 53.1. I reckon both of those lap times should be around about 4 to 5 tenths quicker. So even with the low fuel load, the sort of fresh mediums are considerably slower than the softs with the fuel load, but they are faster than our last flying lap we did with the worn soft. So it does look to me around about lap 6 or 7 is the optimal time to be changing tyres if you're going from softs to mediums. It's slightly different story going from the mediums to the softs. So again, it really becomes a case of the strategy within the strategy for this one. Now we did jump into some other cars just to see how they compare, different drivetrains. First up, we've got the McLaren 650S, very popular car in Group 4 at the moment. We've got the brake balance at +3. Lap time wise, certainly not matching the Toyota over the first couple of laps, but remaining very steady and consistent in the lap times right through here to lap number 5. I'm not entirely sure what lap time we set here. 152.6, so not too bad at all. Steady if unspectacular, I think, would how I would brand the McLaren, and I think it probably will be usable. Next up we have the Renault Megane Trophy. Now instantly you can look at the lap times there and see that we have a lap time advantage, not only just over the McLaren that we just tested, but also our Toyota. Fastest lap of any car set by the Renault Megane here was the 51.5 on lap number 2, and you can see through laps 3 and 4 we haven't lost a whole lot of time, and even coming over the line on lap number 5 and going slightly faster than our previous lap. So the superior tyre wear on the Renault Megane Trophy looks like it's going to make it a very strong contender at this combination. Next up we have the Audi TT. Brake balance set at +5, of course. Now the Audi TT is very fast over one lap, actually setting the best optimal lap out of any car, so it might be a qualifying choice, but in terms of race pace, the tyres just go off very quickly, the lap times increase exponentially, and by the time we come to lap number 5 we're lapping nearly 2 seconds slower than we did on our first flying lap. So I'm going to rule out the FF cars here. If you see them in the leaderboards, please do not pick them in the race. They're going to be absolutely dreadful after a few laps. And next up we tested the BMW M4. Again, not too bad over the first 3 laps, but that lap time on lap 4 seemed to come a little bit out of nowhere because the car didn't feel too bad. But again, it's just all in the third sector you lose the time. Coming across the line here for our 5th lap, we're up to 53.5, which is not much quicker than the Audi TT. So it looks like some of the heavier FR cars might also not be the best choice. It's going to come down to the light handling cars like the Megane Trophy, the 4C, the Toyota 86, and maybe some of the MR cars like the McLaren, the Porsche and the Ferrari, I think should also be quite usable. One car I did want to test that never got round to was the WRX and the Mitsubishi. I think they'll be very good over one lap in this track, but being 4-wheel drive, I'm pretty sure they'll burn through those front tyres too quickly to really make them that great in the race. But certainly maybe a car to check out for its qualifying pace. So we come to that point in the video where we've got all the information up on the screen here. I won't go through it all, just I put this sort of section up here for anybody who can't understand what I'm saying. Maybe just gives them a recap. They can kind of read the information on the screen. Pretty much everything there that we've gone over. The video is there just to read instead. But yeah, in terms of strategy, it's obviously a one-stop if both tyres are mandatory. If by some miracle that it's only one tyre that's mandatory, with that pit loss at 21.3 seconds, it just becomes a no-stop. Quite an interesting battle to see whether you'd want to stay on the softs for 10 laps or whether the mediums would be better in that case, but I'm 99.9% sure it will be both the soft and the medium mandatory. So in terms of how long the soft tyres last, it's going to depend on your driving style and your car. Around about 6 laps for most people, I think. If you're really good on tyre wear, you could probably get 7 laps out of the soft tyres. The Renault Megane Trophy looks like it could probably go 7 laps in the hands of some players, maybe even 8 laps on people who are just unbelievably good at saving tyres. I think what I'd be recommending in this one though is to use that long pit loss to try and find some clear track out there away from any squabbling cars within the midfield. It's very easy to lose 2-3 seconds at fighting with other cars around this track. It's pretty hard to overtake. It shouldn't be as hard as it is in some of the other categories. Normally we get Super Formula and Group 2 around this track. With the dirty air and being tight and twisty and not really any super long straight, it's very difficult to get an overtake made. Should be a little bit more tolerable in Group 4 to try and work your way through some cars, particularly as that tyre wear starts to kick in around about laps 4 and 5. But see if you find yourself about lap 4 and 5 losing an absolute bucket load of time fighting with other cars, I'd be thinking get into those pits, get some clear track. Even if you're on a tyre that's considerably slower like the medium tyre, after 3-4 laps the difference is not going to be massive, and you'll make up a lot more time for clear track than you will fighting with other cars. So that's the strategy for this one. Hopefully that's been useful, helped you out, get you started with before you sort of delve into this race. At this point, we always finish the video with a little bit of a lap guide. We're on board with the Toyota 86 Group 4. We've got the brake balance at +4. Seems to be very much a front limited circuit, so brake balance to the rear for most cars is definitely where you want to go. You want to be looking after those front tyres, give yourself the grip. The orange barrier on the left hand side there is your reference for turn number 1. The first corner is cambered and off camber, so you do want to try to be catching that camber to bring the car round a little bit. Very, very tricky corner. Little path on the left hand side here, that's just after there is your braking reference. Try and keep it as tight as you can to this curb. Don't run and use all the road, as you need to get a better line into this left hand corner here. Treat this all as one corner. Again, it's all about getting the line right and trying to thread the car like a needle through some of these tight and twisty corners that all kind of run onto each other. As I said, it's a nice track once you start to get into the flow of it. This is a very tricky corner here. Try and keep it on the curb to bring the car round. It's very easy to understeer wide there off into the grass there, and then you're going to have dirty tyres for the hairpin. Braking at the second marker board. Again, there's lots of extra bit of curb on the inside here. If you can grab that, it will help bring the car round. And now we've got a downhill straight into probably the trickiest corner on the track. It's quite a fast right-hander. You're looking for the 50-metre board. I'll be braking just before that, just to give yourself a margin of error. Don't be on the outside of that corner trying to make an overtake. You will get bumped off the circuit 9 times out of 10. And again, this part of the circuit here is just about trying to get the line nice and right. Don't use all the road here. Keep it as narrow as you can. And then once you get the car straightened up here, you want to be accelerating out over this curb. Easy to run wide there onto the right hand side as well. Just catches you out, so do be careful of that. And then come into the last corner, again try to keep it as tight into this curb as you can. You'll see a little bit of road on the right hand side. That's about the sort of indicator where you can get on the power. And that's a semi kind of lap guide of Autopolis in the Toyota 86. So I'm quite looking forward to this one myself. It should be a more entertaining race than the Group 1 race at Le Mans. Quite looking forward to doing a couple of live streams at this towards the end of the week, so do join me for them if you can. Hopefully this guide has been useful in some way, shape or form. Please do let me know in the comments if you find these things as useful or you still find them useful. And if you do, please do hit that like button and hit that subscribe button before you leave. That's all we've got left to do now is say thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye now.